Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Nimrod Pod. I am your embattled host, Lou Stump, alongside my brothers in arms, Chet Lifkit and Mel Goodman. We have a fast-paced news blitz for you today, but before we get started, make sure you are following at the Nimrod Pod on X, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and at Nimrod Pod on YouTube and Instagram. Like and share this episode to start the chain reaction. And finally, leave a comment letting us know what you think of the show. Now, let's dive right into the news. I want to start off with the topic that's on everyone's minds, Minnesota. Minnesota government officials have been found liable for the biggest fraud scandal in modern United States history. Tim Walz, Peggy Flanagan, Keith Ellison, and Jacob Fry should all be arrested and sent to fucking prison. Demonetized right there. My bad. This Somali fraud scandal should have sealed the victory for the GOP in the 2026 midterms. But the Democrats decided to start a color revolution instead. This wasn't a last-minute split decision. This has been their plan all along. They pre-programmed secession and color revolution with the Democrat-funded Hollywood blockbuster movies, Civil War, and one battle after another. Yet our president still calls the Democrats stupid idiots. They're not dumb, Mr. President. This wasn't a mistake. They documented their Civil War plans and the Podesta plan ahead of the 2020 election. They are evil, and they know what they're doing. Everything they do is on purpose, and it's our problem now to deal with. The problem in Tehran is not our problem. The problem in Minneapolis is our problem. Stop picking fights based on what Netanyahu wants to do and reallocate all resources to Minneapolis to suppress the open color revolution before we stumble into an all-out civil war. Nimrods, before we get into ICE and the color revolution, what are your thoughts on this Somali fraud scandal? It seems like America forgot all about it.
It's a great point, Lou. And you kind of see this with a lot of different things. So whenever you have a big news story pop up, it takes about 2 weeks for another one to come in, and then everybody's going to forget about the original one. So these Somalis, what was it, $9 billion, $8 billion they sent overseas? At least if we had Americans committing this fraud, they'd be spending it on cars and gold watches and new outfits and suits and their gumas. Instead, we're sending it to warlords in Somalia. So the worst fraud scandal of the last 20 years, 18 years, the worst fraud scandal of the last 18 years. And it took all of 2 weeks for mainstream America to forget about it. So what is our attention span? Do we need people to ban the internet so people can focus on something for longer than 2 weeks at a time? How are we supposed to get anything done if nobody can pay attention to the events that matter? Especially when we're having fraud and money sent overseas in cash, in suitcases, through the airport, through TSA.
I guess the question I have is, why has nobody been punished yet? This was the biggest story up until ICE happened. And obviously, Minnesota is the epicenter of both of these different debacles. So you go from having a huge story with the Somali fraud to then the political opposition saying, hey, let's talk about ICE and how terrible ICE is. Let's stop talking about this Somali fraud that Tim Walz is obviously super deep in. So I think it's more of a let's divert our attention to take the heat off of us and try and put it on somebody else. And I think it's just simply taken over the media because more people are interested about it. There's more clicks with it. And ultimately, it's disappointing because we want to solve problems here in the United States rather than talk about a bunch of useless stuff.
The deep state Democrats, especially the Soros-funded Uniparty, has been committing massive fraud all across the country for a long time. They predetermined that they were going to start an insurrection as soon as this fraud was exposed. They waited until they were backed into a corner, essentially, and the chips just happened to fall in Tim Walz's Minnesota. And that's what we're seeing happen today. And now we see all-out insurrection. So gentlemen, I want to show up this quick clip from DC Drano. And I want to hear your reactions.
These chats every day, they have organized emojis to mean certain symbols. They have protocols, they have training manuals, and then they also have financing documents. And there's a great tweet from, I think, Data Republican showing that there's actually foreign funding from Canada, a guy named Unchaffed or Unchuffed, his organization in Canada. So this has foreign funding. This has state level involvement. The lieutenant governor was found in there. Multiple state representatives and city councilors were found in those signal chats. That is sedition, Steve. If this stuff is leading to violence, to people's deaths, that's insurrection, that's sedition, that's felony murder, that's conspiracy. There is a whole host of charges that members of Tim Walz's staff and campaign staff are involved with. And it is no surprise that they're doing this once their fraud machine was found. It's a pure diversion play, and President Trump has to stay on the offense and take this down, because if he doesn't, and I think he will, but if he doesn't, it will spread to other cities. We've got 1,000 people.
So, gentlemen, this isn't just a grassroots revolution. This is open sedition. This is a seditious conspiracy against the federal government, against the Trump administration, against the American people. These Minneapolis signal chats have organized protocols, training manuals, and finance docs, including foreign funding from Canada. And all the Minnesota officials are leading the charge in these chats. So this just reinforces the fact this is all on purpose. These people aren't idiots. The people actually in the riots might be idiots if they're not getting paid, but most of them probably are getting paid. And this is a deliberate attack on our constitutional republic. Trump needs to wake the hell up, declare the Insurrection Act, and go in and liberate Minnesota. Who's with me?
100%, Lou. 100%. I agree with that analysis that if Trump doesn't go in there and fix this quickly right now, that it's going to spread to other cities, especially if they withdraw ICE or if they go down in scale on operations. So we need Trump to go in and squash the bug now while it's small, or we're going to have the same people funding the same protests in every other city that is liberal enough to have a sanctuary of illegal immigrants that ICE are going after. I hear this question all the time. Why is ICE only going after the immigrants in Minnesota? And that's actually a very good question. Why does it seem like they're only going after the immigrants in Minnesota? Is it because that's what the news is showing you? Is it because that's where all this funding is focused? Because ICE is operating in all 50 states.
You got to remember, 70% of the media is liberal. And that means whenever they believe in something, more than likely, they're going to go ahead and attack it from that angle. So there is Somali fraud in other states. We're just not seeing that. It's all focused on Minnesota because it's the epicenter. That's where the most money is. The $9 million or supposed money that's in Somali fraud there. And the issue is there's been no sort of effort or really responsibility taken by any of these people. They need to be charged. Someone needs to lead the charge. It's got to be the federal government. It's got to be Donald Trump. And I'm not seeing enough out of it. Obviously, these things take time. But if a year down the road, nobody's in prison for the $9 million that taxpayers paid for these random people to come in, illegal immigrants, and get their money, that's just ridiculous. That's unfair. Multiple people need to pay. And the American people deserve to hear it. So, yeah.
Fair enough. I want to share two quick clips from the great James O'Keefe, quite possibly the greatest citizen journalist of our generation. I'll read you the headline. Breaking: Minneapolis mob threatens to kill O'Keefe. Ice bottles thrown, followed, and OMG team under attack. What I'm trying to accomplish here is to show you guys that this is not a peaceful protest. These are riots, and these actually go past riots. This is a secession from the federal government. This is literally a color revolution. Let's take a look.
This is James O'Keefe in downtown Minneapolis. We have a team of undercover reporters still inside the mob. I was at the scene of the shooting, covering it this morning, and basically we barely got out of there alive. There were a few hundred that surrounded us, started throwing ice bottles at us. A few hit us, hit our vehicle. They were starting to rip off my bulletproof vest, so we got out of there. We were followed, we were tailed, and here we are right now. We just got this message, and it says, we know that you're in Minneapolis. You're with O'Keefe and his crew of Nazis. You're in a white Ford license plate. They actually wrote the license plate down from Florida. You have 1 hour to leave or you're dead. You have 1 hour to leave or you're dead. We are going to produce our footage, gathering everything we've got from this weekend. We're going to put our report together along with the hidden camera footage that we have. We still have undercover people in the field. Please pray for my team's safety. This is worse than anything I could have possibly imagined. I have security with me, former Marine, and he said that it was worse than overseas, and it was certainly anything worse than I've seen the cartel at the border. We're going to contact law enforcement, DHS, and the FBI, and we're going to try to get out of here safely so we can bring the news to you. Stay tuned.
So let's see what happens in this next video.
Then they were able to ID me. A woman pulled up my Wikipedia page, which labeled me as a far-right activist, and it went all downhill from there.
I don't know all kinds of things. I'm not doing it.
Shame. They threw something at me, which hit the back of my Kevlar plate. Shame. My security determined this was an unsafe situation, so we retreated back to the SUV, but they continued to follow us.
Those guys are feds. Yeah, the press. Feds.
Our cameraman actually pulled his mask down to try to show them that we are actually press.
If I was a Fed, I wouldn't take off my mask.
We got into the vehicle and they started throwing projectiles at us. Frozen water bottles at us. One hit my security in the back of the neck.
I am shooting.
Shoot.
I'm shooting.
Whoa.
We're fucking press.
We're press. Do you know what the First Amendment is?
Go.
Do you support the First Amendment? Do you support the First Amendment? Yes or no?
I'm against fucking ICE. You guys are yelling and throwing things. We're not doing nothing to you.
You just assaulted us. We're press.
We are. We're trying. All right. No problem, bro. I got you.
Man, it's just everywhere. Look, turn around. They're everywhere.
Shut the fucking doors.
Shut the door.
Shut the fucking doors.
They threw a frozen
ICE.
ice brick at the car.
This video shows that it's not just an explicitly violent in nature event, it's also extremely organized. Nimrods, what are your reactions to these two videos?
I think it's incredibly funny that whenever they found that it was James O'Keefe, they chased him down like hyenas, calling them feds. Even though, as we know now, who are the feds siding with here? Who are the Soroses of the world? Who are the Minnesota government siding with here? Who's funding this? These people are the foot soldiers of the feds. They're the foot soldiers of their liberal leftist overlords, and they're calling other people feds. But I do want to point out, this does showcase partially the violent nature of these riots that are going on. These people are violent. They got nothing better to do, no job. They're just running around attacking people all day. And what else are they supposed to do, right? What are they going to do? Walk down the street and protest all day? They need to find enemies and chase them away. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of the proper solution here. Part of me says we need to send in the fire department from the 5 surrounding states and start blasting them with ice water and until they're done protesting. But I'm willing to let cooler heads prevail.
My perspective is I believe in protesting for the most part. There's a fine line between protesting and getting your point across and then continuing to protest, not going to work, putting your entire life into something, and it ultimately turns into a riot. And then when these riots go essentially untouched by the police because the leadership of Tim Walz and the Minnesota government are not cracking down on this, that's no different than if I went into New York City and at the same time every day I kicked a new person right in the ball sack and nobody did anything about it. Let's say I go and kick a different person in the ball sack for 30 days in a row. I'm going to keep doing it if I get away with it. That's exactly what's happening in Minnesota. People need to, first of all, stop protesting. And like you said, Chet, I don't know what is the solution to that, but this is getting violent, and it's really only violent on one side besides of a couple terrible situations that happened, which in my opinion are relatively unavoidable for these people who are putting their lives on the line to these angry crowds of people that want to do nothing besides kick in their doors, touch them, push them, and instigate. So there's a problem, and I don't have a solution, but I hope that peace is found, and I don't think peace will be found without Minnesota leadership stepping in or ultimately the federal government taking control.
Before we get into the solutions to the problem, Chet, Mel, what were your initial reactions, now that a couple days have passed and you've had some time to think about it, to the ICE murders of Renee Good and Alex Preddy?
I will say my initial reaction for Alex was that it was overkill. You know, I don't want to be a liberal gun freak, but I might have called it a bad shoot, especially looked bad on video. But after a few days, considering what the movement is, what he stood for, and seeing separate evidence of him attacking ICE officers in their cars, damaging the vehicles in the street, and generally being a communist piece of shit, I think that he put himself in harm's way. He took the risk, and he had it coming.
What I got to say is if you get pulled over in your car, you're supposed to put your hands on 10 and 2. You want the police officer to be able to see your hands so he doesn't feel threatened as if you're going to pull a gun on him. You got to think of it from the law enforcement's perspective. These people can be killed. They can be seriously injured just doing their job every day. It's a risk that they take. And when you're instigating, when you are approaching these people who are just trying to do their job, bad things are going to happen. And like you said, I also thought it was originally overkill, but after seeing the evidence, I think he totally overstepped his bounds and put himself in a situation that ended bad for both sides. I mean, ultimately both sides to some sort of extent are at fault, but you got to blame the person who instigated.
I'll tell you guys this. We should not have armed federal police, and protesters should not be executed for carrying a weapon. But the reality is that's not what happened here. Nobody is saying that the murder of Alex Preddy or any American citizen isn't terrible. It was horrible, but we're missing a lot of context. I would love to see this alleged body cam footage that the DHS has and learn more about what Preddy was doing all day leading up to this instance. Clearly, he had a history of stoking violence with ICE. Let's take a quick look at this video of Alex Preddy that was filmed on January 13th, just 2 weeks before he was shot by ICE.
This is a moment the news movement filmed on January 13th in Minneapolis. showing a man who appears to be Alex Preddy interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy. On the morning of January 13th, our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. We arrived around 10:15 a.m. We saw observers shouting at the agents as they walked back to their vehicles. When they started driving away, the man kicked their taillight. An agent then got out of the vehicle, grabbed him, and pushed him to the ground. During the altercation, agents fired tear gas and pepper balls into the crowd. They continued to hold the man down before they retreat, and he walks away. The man in our footage is wearing a similar outfit to what Preddy was wearing on the day he was killed. What appears to be a gun is also visible above his waistband. Here, he continues to stand at the scene. On the day he was killed, the Department of Homeland Security claims Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, approached officers holding a handgun. That claim has been contradicted by analysis of bystander videos from multiple news investigations, which concluded that Preddy was holding a phone, not a gun, when he was pinned to the street. Shortly after the altercation we filmed here on January 13th, federal agents drove away. Soon after that, we left the scene.
So if this is how he was acting 2 weeks before the shooting, and this wasn't enough to mellow him out, imagine what he was doing during the 2 weeks after this instance before the shooting. What were your reactions when you saw this video, Nimrods?
Number one, Lou, you got to hand it to these agents, because if I was up there and these morons were blowing their whistles and honking their horns and screaming, I would have already blown my head off a long time ago. It would have been the first day, probably. So I give it to these agents for holding their composure, and I think that's important to note. The problem, I think, with the Preddy thing is that when he was disarmed, nobody communicated that to the other officers. And if I'm remembering this correctly, the P320 that he was carrying went off in the officer's hand. And so the rest of them assumed that he was holding it and discharged it at one of the agents, and they acted accordingly. So however unfortunate that may be, he put himself in harm's way. And I think this was truly an enemy of the people of America. So whatever crimes that he committed, not that it's justifies him being killed on the spot, I'm just saying it gives a lot of room to wonder about whether or not this is super important at all. I think if these people are going to be running around, breaking into cars, damaging vehicles, throwing ice and throwing flashbangs back at the officers, some people are going to end up getting hurt or killed. It's just the price that comes with this type of event. So I'm not too concerned about this anymore. I don't want any changes unless it's an increase in the ICE involvement in Minneapolis.
I hate to be a broken record here, but every action has a consequence, whether it's a good or a bad consequence. Whenever the illegal immigrants decide to leave their country and come here, they're assuming risk of whatever comes from this foreign country. We assume risk whenever we go to a different country and don't understand the laws there. And like, some people getting arrested in Russia and then, ultimately being traded for one of the most prolific merchants of death in the world, if you all know what I'm talking about. Things happen and you have to assume risk and you have to deal with the consequences. So if you're going to go and approach law enforcement, assume the consequence. And for the most part, like you said, Chet, I would not be able to hold my composure like they are. For the amount of attacks that there are, for the amount of hands that are being put on these law enforcement agents, I'm surprised there hasn't been more death and more harm from that end. I really am surprised. Pleasantly surprised that there hasn't been, but surprised nonetheless.
I've heard a lot of people say you can't put the cookies back in the jar. But if you're going to tell me that, then what's your solution to this problem? All the illegals are here. Nothing we can do about it without more innocent Americans dying. Ultimately, the Democrats made a mess that we have to now clean up. If ICE is not able to do their job, then the illegal immigrants get amnesty. And if we can't have mass deportations under the Trump administration, whose entire platform was mass deportations, we never will get it. If we don't have mass deportations, Americans will be squeezed out, and Democrats will have an unbeatable voting bloc forever made up of foreigners. So the question is, how do we have mass deportations without violence? We have no credibility as a society without law and order. Actions have consequences. If we allow foreign invaders to run rampant, we are setting ourselves up for a civil war, true civil war conditions. Foreign-born, foreign nationals don't get to decide what it means to be an American. And this goes from civil war to all-out world war, because we are importing foreigners from countries that hate us. And eventually, they're going to get involved when we have to take care of their people. My solutions are simple. Ban corporations from hiring illegals. Ban welfare and benefits for illegals. No citizenship for illegals. Debank illegals by fining banks who don't seize the accounts of illegals. Notice how all of these involve no ICE enforcement. But then after that, on top of that, invoke the Insurrection Act and send in the 101st Airborne to protect ICE. Arrest Minnesota leadership, including the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and the Minneapolis mayor. And if all else fails, quarantine Minnesota and let nature take its course. Let the issue sort itself out organically. What are your thoughts on that solution?
I think that's a great solution. So making it impossible for these people, these illegal immigrants, to live here is step number one. And so keeping them out is actually step number one. Making it impossible for them to live here is step number two. They'll leave on their own. They'll start to realize that we have a country and we have a border, and you can't just cross and start to steal money from people that live here or came in the right way. So that's good. I do like the idea of quarantining Minnesota and letting nature take its course. But I also want to see this Minnesota leadership arrested and put in prison. Obviously, Tim Walz's staffers were found in the signal chats. They're directly coordinating all of these riots, is what I'll call them, if I shouldn't use a stronger word. But they need to be arrested. A lot of people think they shouldn't be because it sets a bad precedent that we're arresting political opponents. But let's not negate what they've done here. They're starting riots. This is sedition. This is treason. So the precedent that we set, if that were to enable the left, should they win another presidential election, to go after our people with the legal system, with lawfare, I say they're going to do it anyway. So we might as well kick it off now. This is the last hope for this country. Look at what happened to California. Whenever they granted amnesty for all those illegals, which is what will happen in 2029 if they're not all gone and a liberal wins, the country is going to be blue forever. We're going to dive straight off a cliff into a progressive shithole. People's liberties are going to be taken away. You're not going to be able to afford anything. You're going to own nothing and be happy. And they're going to directly align with the World Economic Forum and the globalist agenda. This is do or die. So I want to see corrective action taken. I don't think Trump needs to be afraid of his voting base turning on him for doing that. I think there's enough people that still support this, even whenever they start up the deportations and CNN and MSNBC run the reels of the crying children and the family separation like they always do. If you can't harden your heart, you don't understand what's at stake.
I agree with both of you. And I think the most important part of that was, like you said, number one was keeping them out of our country. But then you have a president like Joe Biden who lets them in our country. Then you have a hard-fisted leader like Donald Trump who wants to get them all out. And so the United States is becoming more and more polarized to each side. And I think the only solution with the bouncing back of Republican versus Democrat parties for every other election is to give more power to the states. So my proposal would be having less taxes going towards the federal government and potentially more of those taxes going to the state government. And then the states act individual to their own necessities, to their own wants, to their own needs with less federal oversight, meaning they have more military power for themselves. They can essentially sort out each situation the way that they want to handle it. And so now, instead of having Somali fraud in Minnesota from federal money that's being used, they won't have that money. So that can't happen. And then you have good states versus bad states, and the bad states got to figure this shit out themselves. They can't have poor leaders like Tim Walz just turning a blind eye to this stuff. That's their state. They need to take control of it. And that's why I think the states need more power and people can choose to live where they want.
Is Trump really a strong leader that wants to get all of them out of our country? Is he really? Because even during his campaign, him and JD Vance over and over again, they said, we're going to start with the criminals. And then eventually we'll get to everybody else. When they say we're going to get the criminals first, that's their way of saying you're not getting mass deportations. When you look at the number of illegals that snuck across our border, or really we just let them right in during the Biden administration, there is no way we can go after all the criminals first and pick and choose and then get everybody else and actually hit that entire number by the end of the first Trump administration. There are millions of people that were let in our country during the Biden administration, and we have to go over any and all city by city, geographically. I think the best way to do it is geographically. If we have all of our resources in Minneapolis right now, then we need to do a full sweep of Minneapolis. And then we go to Chicago, we do a full sweep of Chicago. We go to Portland, full sweep. We go to LA, full sweep. We go to New York City, full sweep. If that's how you're going to allocate your resources, that's the best way to do it. But if you're going to spread them all across the country very thinly and just go after the criminals, what are you really accomplishing? What are you accomplishing? I want mass deportations, and I want an immigration moratorium on top of that. One, we can't let any more people in, legal or illegal. No more H-1B visas, no more golden visas. Nobody's allowed into our country until every last scumbag illegal who broke the law, they're all criminals. Donald Trump says we're only going to go after the criminals, the rapists, the pedophiles, the burglars, the assaulters. No. They committed a crime when they entered our country illegally. They are all criminals, and they should be treated as such. They are foreign invaders. It is an act of war. Get them all the hell out of my country, and if anybody tries to stop them, send in more troops so that they can't do shit about it.
Prevention is the easiest way to keep illegals out. It's no different. Preventing something is the best way to keep something from happening. I mean, obviously, I just said what prevention is, but essentially, if I went and binge ate for 2 weeks, just a bunch of food, stopped working out, gained 10 pounds, it's going to take me probably 3 months to lose all that weight. It's the same thing here. You got to go for the criminals because you have limited resources, and we're not ever going to be able to get everybody who came in because we didn't prevent it from happening. We let it happen. We don't have the resources to get them out. It's going to take a long time. And so the moral of the story needs to be prevention for the future. I mean, what's done is done. We're doing our best. And I do think that they are targeting the right people at the right time with our limited resources. But ultimately, we're not going to be able to get everybody out. And that's where prevention comes into play.
But you understand this means they're going to go into a home and they find out somehow they find out they're criminals. Does this mean that they're criminals after they enter the United States, or that they are criminals from their foreign country that they came from, like they were released from prisons? Which one does that mean? We got to be very particular about how we define it. First of all, Trump also says we're going to exempt agriculture and hospitality. So all the ones in the farms and the hotels and in the restaurants, we're going to let them stay because they're hard working. But that still drags all the wages way low. And there's a reason all of the American citizens are unemployed is because they can't find a workable wage anywhere. This is slave labor wages at agriculture, hospitality because of the immigrants. And Trump's enabling that. We talk about the affordability crisis. Until we get all the illegal workers out of our country at every level, I'm talking everywhere from the busboy to the guy in the back of the fry cook to the IT professional or the finance vice president. They're all taking our jobs and making us worth less. We're getting paid less because these people are here, and we have to remove every last one of them. And why would ICE go into a house to find out if a guy's a criminal or not, but they know he's an illegal, and not just put him in their fucking trunk, send him to the border, put him on a boat, and take him back to Africa? That's my question. Why haven't we done that yet? I mean, I'll talk to Elon Musk. We're buddies, okay? We talk a lot. He loves to ban me on X and suppress me as well. If you guys haven't been following along with the Grok scandal and the Nimrod pod. But I'll talk to Elon. We will charter a golden fleet of steamliners, and we will send every last one of those fucking tricksters back to where they came from, because this is America. And I'm not going to let them take over my country. I'm not going to let them determine what it means to be an American, who gets to be an American. And I've had enough. What do you think, Chet? Should we put them all on a boat and send them back?
Let's get the fleet going. Starting today, we need golden steamliners, one-way tickets, back to wherever the hell you came from. One thing I want to get out into the airwaves right now is that this is a moderate solution. We're just sending these people home. What's so bad about their home? They're not refugees. They're military-age men that are coming into the country. They're just going home. If these people are so valuable, why aren't their countries fighting to keep them in? Why aren't their countries fighting to keep their workers in so that they have enough people to work? It's a big lie. And so one of the things that I want to stress on here is that if we want to stop these people from working for lower wages, we have to stop the companies that hire them. And that's the biggest hurdle here. We need to stop the ag companies, the hospitality companies, which may be difficult, but it'll be worth it. We need to stop them. And I think imposing fines is going to work. This is where I'm kind of divided, though. This is the division that I have between being a libertarian and being a larger government person. I think that the right wing views power as inherently evil and illegitimate. And so whenever it's in the right wing's hands, their only concern is keeping it away from the left. They don't want to wield it. I think we have the power right now. We need to wield it, because if we don't, the left is going to get back into office and wield that power against us, and not us as in your Republican Congress people. They're going to be fine. They're going to shill. They're going to shill for the Zionists, and they're going to be all right. But your quality of life as a United States citizen is going to decrease because of the power that the left is willing to wield. We need to step into those shoes. So that's my solution here. Action by the government, since we have it, while we have it, to rectify this situation.
And I'll jump in. It's going to take a powerful executive to fix our broken system. Simply electing Donald Trump or whoever our savior is in the executive branch is not going to cut it. We still have a completely broken Congress. Like, we would have to win every single seat, and then we would have to win over every single lower court, and then we have to fund every single lower court. Then we have to win every single local election, every single state election. And that's not practical, unfortunately. And this is something I debate. So I'm not saying this is the answer, but it seems like we need a powerful executive to break the system, almost like Doge. When Elon said, we're going to go in there, we're going to root out all the fraud and all the waste. And then we have an end date. We have a termination date. We will abolish Doge on the last day. Like, Trump needs to use his executive power to break the system, remove all the scum, arrest all the people at the top, chop off the heads of the Hydra. And then at the end of his term, once he's accomplished all of this, which he has accomplished none of this so far, and we're pretty much doomed unless, someone better than him wins in 2028. Seems doubtful. But unless he's able to accomplish all this before the end of his term, we're completely fucked. But at the end of his term, let's assume that he does his job. He roots out the corruption. He puts all the bad guys in jail. We get those deep state indictments. At the end, he needs to reestablish the Constitution. He needs to make it very clear that this system can never be broken again. It might require some amendments, or it might require further exploration into the verbiage of the existing amendments, and being very clear on what the meaning of our Constitution is. We got to get into the terms. We got to get into the nitty gritty to make sure we are following it to a T, so this system can never be overtaken by scum ever again. What are your thoughts on that, Nimrods?
100%, Lou. That's kind of what I was referring to here. We need somebody to wield the sword, and we need them to do it now, before it's over, before it's campaign time, and they want all the donations, and they're trying to sway voters. We need to make a difference now. And that doesn't just include these illegal immigrants, like we said earlier. This includes the H-1B visas too. Let's take an example. Amazon had 13,000 H-1B visa applications approved last year. And this is before Trump put in the $100,000 fee for H-1Bs. That was before. This year, they laid off 16,000 engineers who were American workers. So this problem isn't just about illegal immigrants picking strawberries on the farm. This is about a tech oligarchy, overlord class that is actively working against you as an American citizen to make your quality of life worse and their quality of life better. So we need regulation. We need to be able to say, here are the wishes of the people, Donald Trump. You need to execute these, or we are not going to back you or your people in the future.
Yeah, and before Mel jumps in, Trump has exercised executive power. He has exerted force at times, but he's not finishing the job. So now that he's teased it, now that he's showed that he can do things without congressional approval, that means the next guy that gets in is going to do the same thing. And if it's the Democrats, I mean, they would openly break the law on a daily basis. They would violate the Constitution and weaponize the government against the American people every single day. But every single branch of the government was working together, state, federal, and local, to do so. So now, if they were to get back into power, they would also have full control of the system, and they would start putting their thumb on that executive power that Trump teased, and then we're all fucked. Mel, what do you think about all this?
I 100% agree with both of you. The thing we got to remember about kicking out the terrible scumbag officials that we have is that many of them were elected in. So then you come to realize that America itself is the problem, because you have people who are so polarized. You have people who believe things that simply just are not good for the United States. And I actually believe that both of you would be better than, let's say, and I'll just short it, 75% of elected officials, because you guys are independent thinkers. You're able to listen to others. You're able to find solutions. Many of these people aren't. Many of these people run on trying to anger people, trying to point out the opposition and find voters that way. And the issue is American. So I don't have much faith, and I don't necessarily think that these propositions we have are even possible because of the American people. So I would love to be optimistic and join you all and, saying these things that need to happen. But I think Trump, for the most part, is picking his battles as he has to as a leader, and is, for the most part, to at least what I believe, getting them done under the limited resources he has. And you all may disagree with that, but as a leader, you have to pick your battles, and I think he's doing okay.
If he doesn't get it done, we're all fucked.
Yeah, but
We're
it's
running
not
out
his,
of time, and he's going to lose the midterms. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to get impeached. And Congress isn't going to approve anything he does. And as soon as he gets pushback from the Soros-funded left, he'll back off on mass deportations, and he'll back off on ICE, and he'll back off on the H-1B crisis, and he'll back off on going into Greenland, and he'll back off on securing our hemisphere. He's bitching out on everything, and he needs to actually double down. That's what we need to see. But he needs to do it in a way and communicate directly with the people. Like after both the ICE shootings, he should have addressed the nation and explained, this is what we're trying to accomplish. I'm not trying to kill Americans, but they are impeding federal operations. Like this is an ICE operation that they are impeding. They are stopping it from being completed, and they're putting themselves in danger, and they're also putting my officers in danger. So should they just let these people come and kill them? No, these violent events are going to happen. They shouldn't happen, but they're going to happen. And this is a temporary point in our country because of Joe Biden, because we let all these people in. It's not about prevention anymore. They're here. We've been invaded. We need to get them out. We need to exercise a little bit of executive power just for the next 4 years. I guess it's 3 years now, less than 3 years. And then after that, we might actually have a republic left to give our children to give to our children. Not the other way around. Does that make sense?
I agree. And I think more importantly than deportation is maybe even getting some legislation in for how to allow foreigners in. Like, that cannot be changed no matter who the president in the future is, because we have a problem at hand and we have to figure it out. But this problem can happen again. History always repeats itself. You're going to have some dumbass do the same thing that Joe Biden did. So some sort of legislation needs to be put in to avoid this again, so we're not spending countless money and violence on things like this.
Well said. We have a really exciting segment coming up. It's the first ever installment of Chet's Slop of the Week. In this week's installment, he will be covering backstabbing Piers Morgan. Allow me to share my screen. Take it away, Chet.
So Piers Morgan, for a while over the course of the past few months, was pretending to be a voice of free speech. A lot of people know him from whenever he interviewed Andrew Tate and then subsequently Nick Fuentes. But after the Fuentes interview, the Groypers went out and they found all the dirt on Piers, and especially his wife. And so this all culminated into a apex that we see here. His wife, in reference to their wedding vows, she says, I signed up to in sickness and in health, but it's almost 2 weeks since he broke his hip and my patience with my patient is wearing thin. I can't imagine what has to go on inside a household for a wife to be this vindictive, to embarrass her husband like this. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me. And just the way they're describing him, just the way she's describing him, invalid. The biggest test of our wedding vows. While he's sick, how can anybody trust this guy? He obviously can't keep a home in order. He can't keep his wife in order. This guy can't be trusted. If you couldn't tell by the Fuentes interview, this should send you over the ledge. But like Lou said, this is the slop of the week. This has no real repercussions for any of you guys out there. I just think it's funny to look at. And so Make fun of Piers all day on X. Tag this clip whenever you're doing it, so Piers can hear from the people of this earth what a piece of shit he is, what a absolute queer he is.
I mean, Pierce is still the slop master. He knows how to get people's blood boiling. What really blows my mind is that he's able to use the same 2016, 2020 DEI tactics of you're a thisophobe or a thatophobe, or you're anti this or you're anti that, or here's a clip of you in a 5-second clip saying something that people might perceive as racist. And he just gets away with that. And people actually watch it. It's kind of disgusting. This actually brings me to our next topic. I wanted to give a quick update on the Grok scandal. As many of you know, our account has been extremely suppressed since we released our bombshell episode. I'll flash it up on the screen. Episode number 23, Dystopian Grok. How we the people are being silenced. We, after posting this, every single post we made after averaged 1 to 10 impressions. 1 to 10. And we are we only have 400 to 500 followers, but we have a lot of viral posts. Like, we know how to get people's attention. But now, and I've had conversations with the Grok, everything that we're doing is being shoved to the bottom of the queue because we are mentioning the Grok scandal. We are accusing, they say that we're being accusatory as opposed to just reporting the news, which I disagree with. We're literally just reporting, this is what Grok told us, and we're going to repeat it to you guys so that you can make your own decision. So if you guys haven't watched this episode, go back and watch it. Absolute bombshell. After this happened, we tested posting slop. And I know our buddy Rex Jones did the same thing. When you post slop and you stop saying things that Grok doesn't like, your impressions go way up and you get viral posts. As soon as we made the switch, it was like we had 10 massive replies in one day, and we got our follower count back because we lost it from posting this. And it's all kind of horseshit. And now I'm seeing all my favorite accounts after this Grok scandal, who used to be so based and report on the news and give us their honest opinions, are now just strategically posting slop. Like, they're reacting to IRL streams. They're, talking about the left-right paradigm. Have you guys noticed this switch in content over the past few weeks?
Yes, absolutely. And whether it's just that this type of content is being pushed by the algorithm because of this Grok thing, or whether people are intentionally doing it, either one of those makes sense to me. I implore all of you Nimrods out there, all of our loyal listeners, to go and watch that last episode, because it's really eye-opening to the forces that are at play, even in the so-called free speech app from Elon Musk. So I'm still torn. I don't know how to fix it. I can't trust Elon ever since he started suspending my X account for nothing. They need to stop outsourcing their moderation to both AI and India. They need to stop outsourcing their moderation to Bangalore and H-1B workers. It's not working. This is not free speech. If you want people to be able to share their opinions, especially on a pasted out result of a search into your AI engine, then you're going to have to just speak on it. You have to just shut down the rumor yourself. You can't suppress these things. It's like the age-old mistake that every authoritative empire makes. You can't ban speech. You can't ban things. You can't ban questions from regular people, because all that makes them want to do is ask more questions and say the speech more.
Yeah, don't ban me. Don't censor me. Go ban and censor your fucking large language model. Go censor Grok, not me. We're just reporting the news. But apparently this is a violation of X community guidelines. And notice how Elon's now hanging out with Trump and literally nobody cares. Like, we were all just praying to God after Elon left that he would come back at some point. We needed him. We need Doge back. But he's completely lost our trust on X by punishing people strictly on issues related to Israel and anti-Semitism in the JQ. And that's a problem. Like, that's a massive problem. Did you guys notice that the reaction was much less positive than we would have anticipated when we were talking about this, last year at this time?
I was super pro Elon. I thought, as Doge, he was getting shit done. He was saving money. He was turning the government around. And now, since this Grok scandal, now that I don't believe in Twitter or X anymore, it's disappointing for me to even see Elon anymore. I wish he had the standards that he had, at least when he was Doge. And it seems like those are gone now, if they were ever there.
They weren't ever there, Mel. And I knew it. I knew it ever since July of 2025, whenever I got suspended for the first time. I called him a geek. He's been a geek ever since. I've had him muted since maybe March of last year. I just can't stand it. Ever since he did that dumbass jump on stage when he was said I'm dark MAGA or whatever the fuck. But super disappointing. We have our pundits. We have our chess pieces for free speech. We have people that are willing to push the boundaries. We have people that are pushing the boundaries, but not in a suspicious way that would make people delegitimize the argument as a whole. So we have what we need. What we really need is another Elon, or just Elon to change his ways and turn this back around. Because, no matter what you say, the left is going to call you a Nazi. They're going to call you the worst person ever. They're going to call you literally Hitler. They called Mitt Romney Hitler in 2012. So it's not going to change. You need to be able to speak your mind either way. And that's becoming a problem.
Most certainly. And I have one more little extra topic I want to bring up. There are rumors and reports out that Steve Bannon is laying the groundwork for a 2028 presidential campaign. What are our thoughts on this, gentlemen?
I really like Bannon. From the limited amount of information that I have on him, I like what he says. I like that he was sort of the engine or the brain of 2016 Trump, which is like, that was the peak of Trump when he was campaigning in 2016. He was exposing what was going on at the top level that people hadn't even heard about before because it was so cleanly censored before. The only person talking about it at that point was Alex Jones. And that's why he's the godfather of the populist right. So I would like to see what he brings to the table. Even since these past few betrayals and the fact that I don't really trust any of our politicians anymore, even the ones that come from the alt-right or the dissident right, I'd like to see what he brings to the table.
Yeah, and like you said, Chet, he was the brains behind Trump's 2016 campaign, which proves that Trump wasn't the genius. This ideology is literally baked into Bannon's blood. He obviously piggybacked off of the Tea Party movement, which was literally inspired by InfoWars, not just Alex Jones, but the entire community that he created around it. And this should give us hope. It's very important that we have someone with strong ideology, someone that wants victory running in this 2028 presidential election. Bare minimum, just to push the envelope on JD or whoever the leading establishment candidate will be, because we need to make sure that whoever gets in there is going to pick up the torch from where Trump left the America First movement and move us into the future. We need someone who's going to be a hardliner, someone who's going to be more radical, someone who's going to be more hardcore, someone who's going to over-deliver and under-promise, and someone that's really going to take whatever Trump accomplishes over these next 3 years and this past year and really solidify it into a country that we will be comfortable bringing children into. That's what it comes down to. I need affordability. I need law and order and safety for my kids. I need to remove all of the brainwashing from the mainstream media and the school systems. We need school choice. We need to remove all the poison from our medical system from our food system, from our water supply. We literally need to remove, like Trump said this in 2016, drain the swamp. Okay, Steve Bannon, let's bring it back. That should be your campaign slogan. Drain the fucking swamp. Because if we don't drain this swamp during the current Trump term and whoever wins after him, we're cooked as a nation. We are cooked. I hate to be a black pillar, but everyone I've talked to, everyone I trust, knows we're cooked if we don't accomplish this, especially if Trump's not able to get the job done. We need someone to pick up the torch.
I think that if we don't have somebody do that, if we have JD and he gets in because Trump endorsed him and he got all the Trump voters that are still alive, the 50 plus, and the young people that are just compromising on what they want, and we don't get what we want from JD, I think we're going to see a right-wing revolution in this country. Because I think at that point, it's going to be really like actively dying. Right now, it's do or die. We need the illegal immigrants out, and we need an immigration moratorium, or we're going to see a blue America forever and ever. But at that point, we're going to be actively dying in 2029 and 2030. So I think if we don't get the right person, then there is going to be a lot of violence and unrest. It's going to be too late for any promises. It's going to be too late for the America Party. It's going to be too late for somebody to go and say, all right, we'll charge them $100,000 if they want to bring in H-1Bs. This country needs to change its course right now. And if it's not done by the people in power, by the elected officials, and it's not done by the unelected bureaucratic elite, it's going to be done by the people. There are 300 million citizens of this country, if I'm correct. There are something like that amount of citizens in this country. And that is a dangerous amount of people to have unrest from. The left is already pissed off, and the right wing is going to get even more pissed off. So it's that we don't have people representing the will of the tax-paying citizens of this country, and that's not a sustainable model. Voting has always been a substitute for war. It's a political war every 4 years to prevent the need for violent uprisings by the majority of the people in the country. So if that's not working for us, what do you think is going to happen? I want to see somebody take a stab at it. I just think it might be a risky play if they're going to have to hardline against Trump, because they're going to ruffle a lot of feathers. It's going to have to be an extremely charismatic person. We might not even know who it is yet, and it might not even be in 2028, but it's going to take a lot.
For me, Trump's only job over the next 3 years is to eliminate the Democrat Party. If you still identify as a Democrat in 2026, you are mentally ill, evil, devil-possessed, and you don't belong here. Simple as that. And the Trump's coalition created this massive big tent of people that are in the GOP, which now has been completely fractured. So I see the GOP getting smaller and this thing called the right getting much bigger. The independent, the People's Party, the Team Humanity, the People's Movement, the Tea Party, whatever you want to call it. All the normal people that aren't sick in the head are looking for a home. But if we're all fighting on the right, the Democrat Party will take us down, no matter how small and how radical they are. If we are fractured, it'll be like if RFK stayed in the race and stole votes for Trump. Biden could have won, right? So we need to squeeze out the Democrat Party, because if we don't, we will not be able to have this prosperous future that we want. The Democrat Party must go away, and we must allow the right, which is really just everyone, like the United States Party, like the America Party, like Elon wanted to call it. I think that's great. Okay, let's split into two, or let's split into like 10 different groups, whatever. I don't care if it's a two-party system or more. I think it's a little tricky after two, but let's, however many parties we need, let's have people start running on issues, and let's let nature sort itself out. Because if not, the Democratic stronghold, that stranglehold that Soros has had on our country for our damn near whole lives, will never go away. It'll get tighter and tighter, and the great American empire will fall. That's the reality of the situation, guys.
That's absolutely correct, Lou. This empire is on the ledge of civilizations. I implore all you Nimrods to go out there and read the history of the fall of empires. If it was written correctly or not, we see a lot of parallels between today and the Roman Empire. We see a lot of parallels between today and 1929 Weimar Germany, but that's unrelated. But we need corrective action now. I need to be inspired. I'm inspired maybe 1 out of every 5 things that Trump does, and the rest of it is it's goislap. It's to make the boomers clap their hands like seals in front of their TV screens. And how much longer are we going to be fighting for these old people? How much longer are we going to be fighting for the managerial class? There needs to be fundamental change or a fundamental return to the way this country was founded. And that's going to take a lot of guts, hardening of hearts, and God forbid it takes violence. It's going to take a lot of political action.
Well said, Patriots. I think this is good. It's been a productive episode. We hit a lot of topics, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm not going to scream like I usually do. But gentlemen, make sure you are following at the Nimrod Pod on socials and at Nimrod Pod specifically on Instagram and YouTube. We just started a new YouTube and Instagram account. Give us a follow. We'll be posting tons of reels and shorts there for you guys. But most importantly, remember, the answer to 1984 is 1776. And by fueling the Nimrod Revolution, we will be able to take our country back and progress the America First movement into the future. Supporting this broadcast is like putting on the armor of Christ and sticking a sword down Satan's pussy. Think about it that way. We have a special guest coming up next week, possibly next week. This is huge. This will help support the program. Rex Jones has offered to come on the Nimrod Pod, everybody. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you have notifications on. We will get that out to you guys as soon as possible. Shout out Rex. Make sure you guys are following Rex Jones News with a Z on X and Truism Tim Tompkins. And you're watching their show every night, Gray Area Talks. It might be the best show on the internet. Thank you, Rex. Thank you, Nimrods, so much for watching. And we will see you guys next week.